Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Saigon Writers Club website, and in particular, our tutorial section. And again, this session here, these 7 videos that we produced and uploaded onto our website, are all about the modern short story. What is it? How is it structured? How can I start writing one? And how each piece fits into the other and so on. Because the modern short story does have rules. It's not just haphazardly put together. I mean, 5 to 10,000 words, you can see here on the screen, read in one sitting, 2 or 3 main characters, 1 or 2 minor characters, a single event, and so on. So those are the basic rules of that. And the purpose of this tutorial, these intro plus 6 videos, is to break it down into each one, part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. You can see that there. And I hope you've already watched parts 1 to 5, because now we are at the very end, and that is part 6, the resolution, the denouement. And again, I'm using my own short story, Memo from the Landlord, to describe each of these parts. And the resolution is, as you can imagine, the end of the story. Denouement is the French word for tying things up, kind of figuring out the last piece. What did it all mean in the end? What's next? What's going to happen to this character, that character? Maybe there's some open questions there. That's one part of it. Another part is a good ending, a good resolution, a good denouement will give the reader a certain feeling. Not necessarily a good one, not about the writing, but about the story. Maybe anger, maybe compassion, maybe weeping, maybe happy, maybe, oh, I have to share this, or maybe it touches them in a way because it hit them, it hit their life. And so the end of the story, the resolution, is not just the end of the story. It's hopefully setting up for you to then talk about things going forward, making people think. So if you followed up until now, the first 5 parts, the opening, the moment, rising action, climax, falling action, the story, Memo from Landlord, is all about seeing a total solar eclipse. The little boy, one of the characters, Colin, sees that as a miracle. His dad, a journalist in a very negative, dark time in American politics, he is a political reporter, doesn't believe in miracles. He hates everything. So they went to see the eclipse. They had this enormous moment of the eclipse. Falling action followed up on a couple of the characters, and now we're at the end. So I'll start to read here. By the way, so the falling action, one of the other characters, the editor, assigned Max, a journalist, to write about the experience. Write an op-ed. Give me 700 words of what you saw when you saw the corona, when you saw that solar eclipse happen. So here's how I wind up this part of the story. Max wrote his op-ed about the solar eclipse. It created a flood of letters to the editor, the most ever, I was told, and pretty much every letter was positive and thankful. My favorite was from an older woman. She had kids, and her kids had kids, and some of those kids had also begun to have kids. It was a salty letter with colorful references to a shit ton of grandkids and that bitch cancer, which would ultimately prevent her from seeing, so on. So here is a little final piece of action, a comment from an outside character, this older woman who wrote a letter to the editor. So again, we're setting up a final part. And then I include here parts of the letter that the older lady sent in. And I put it in italics to show it's different. It's not the narrative of the narrator. It's not part of the story. It's like coming from the outside and coming into the short story. Being angry is such a waste of time. It does nothing but prolong the hate. How many people get to be great greats? How about even just a great grandma? Shit, even a regular grandma. I've been lucky enough to have such a large family, and now, after reading Max's piece, I have some evidence that we are not alone, and that everything is, in the end, going to be okay. We'll be okay. That works for me. Thanks, Max. So I'm going to finish my story by letting Max tell his. I didn't edit a word, nor did I suggest a title. This is all Max. So use of italics for the dialogue, and then the very final scene. And so this sets up my ending. And let me speak a little bit about endings, because in some ways, when you go into a short story, you should be thinking about maybe two or three things only. And one of them is, how's the story end? What kind of final message do I want to leave the reader? What am I trying to say? Why am I telling this particular story? Why am I writing it down? Why am I spending God knows how many writes and rewrites to finish the damn thing? Well, part of that is because you want to make the reader feel something. And that's where you do that. You do that here in the resolution, in the denouement, at the end of the story. And there's nothing easy about that. So when I had this idea, I created the character of Max, the journalist. I knew in my head, in the end, Max is going to write about it because he is a journalist, so he's going to write about it. So I need to have an editor that assigns him the op-ed. What did you see when you saw the corona? And so that is how I ended this short story. And the memo from the landlord is the title of the op-ed, but also, of course, the title of the short story. Memo from my landlord by Max S. with a life-saving contribution from Colin S. And I start that with a poem, William Ernest Henley's poem Invictus. And so my finish of this short story is to have an op-ed of I think it's more than 700 words. I'm not sure how many words, but at any rate, that's how I end it. And so you have to figure out how are you going to end your story. And the key part of this is, what do you want the reader to feel? What do you want them to think when they close the book and put the book down and stand up and scratch their head and look out the window? Hopefully they have something going on in their heart, in their stomach, in their head, in their soul, what have you. Hopefully they tell their friends, their family, their loved one, their companion, their partners about the story. It says, oh, you got to read this thing, man. It really hit me. Oh, it reminded me of, hey, you have to read this because it reminded me of. And that's what literature should do. So you can see here, this is the final part. I put in full the editorial as if it was the end. And so you see here, the end is the end of the editorial and of course the end of the short story itself. 1,300 words. I like how I ended this story, and you have to find how you want to end your story. All right, well, that's it. So that's part 6 of the 6 parts of the short story. I hope this whole series has been useful for you, and I hope it encouraged you to write, to begin writing, write a short story. And of course, I hope you join the Saigon Writers Club and take one of our creative writing classes. Happy writing, everyone. Be well.